and get us started. So we'll record. Thanks for hitting that. We have a few things on our agenda today, but as always, are interested in things that are coming up for you. These are meant to be useful office hours for you all as you um, implement work. So we are, just to give you a sense of what we're talking about today, I'm going to touch on the mid-year reporting template that you all, I believe, have received, but also just talk through reporting and leveraging that for communications, because our most of our time today that we've planned is about strategic communications. We have a one-pager template to share with you about communicating about the successes that you've had as you think about ongoing implementation and getting other folks to the table and advertising just what a great job you all are doing at supporting educators, as well as talking a little bit about coalition engagement and sharing a bit of how you all are utilizing work groups and your coalitions in general in this work. And then we have the ever continuing update on tax and benefit toolkit that we hope will be out to you very, very, very shortly. And just to give you a heads up that we'll have a few separate office hours. A few of you have received and given some feedback on the different tools. So I know a few of you have seen those things, but just for those of you that haven't, we'll get to that. And then we'll open it up to all of your questions. But before we jump in, is there anything major that has happened for any of you in your regions that you want to share, or minor but feels major, about getting payments out or solving any problems or things you want to follow up on from past office hours? Okay, I'll let you keep thinking about that as we go through the agenda, because I'm sure you all have thoughts and questions of things that you um, want to share. So I'm going to put in the chat the reporting guidelines that I believe you should have received from both MyLeap and Go ISD. Holly isn't able to join us today. I know you're here, Joy, but I'm not going to put you on the spot. So I was thinking we'll just, if there are any questions that are unrelated to kind of each asking each other questions about the guidance itself, we'll collect those and make sure that we get those answered. But mostly wanted to use the time to see how you all were thinking about reporting. And one, I think to really talk through as we get into the template next, strategic communications and how and if anyone is finding some good success in collecting success stories, because of course this reporting, I think especially around your narrative reports that are coming up are opportunities, one that we'll have to see what TA might be helpful, but also for you all to collect stories that are helpful for you all to communicate about your initiative. So definitely just wanted to open it up for questions and thoughts on reporting, but also would love to share if people are like, here's how we're collecting the good things we're hearing, or how we're getting those things from folks. Would love some folks to share there. So with that, I'll just leave it to you all. Feel free to just unmute, put in the chat, whatever works for you, questions you have or things you want to share.
So, Sarah, just in that first bullet, when it talks about performance measures, is
Mhm.
that something that was directly in the grant that we wrote, or is there a separate document that I should be referring to? I mean, it's been a minute. So,
Yes,
give me some insight on where it's at all.
absolutely. We can follow up with specifics, but I know that in each of your grants, which yes, it's definitely been a minute since you wrote them, so that you had those things you proposed to do by when. And Lindsay, if you want to add more, go ahead. So I believe that's mostly what you should be focused on in this point in time is kind of what you said and how many folks you said you'd reach and by when.
Yeah, I agree with that, Sarah. That was something, that was a section in the grant application. And so I think it's just describing the work that's been done or if those have changed, just making sure you're capturing that.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Other questions you have or ways you want to, I would love to hear if folks want to share how you're collecting or documenting success stories, however formal or informal that process is for you all.
I can share for Region 5. Region 5 is doing, we're working with data-driven decisions. So Rebecca and her team are following up with quarterly surveys that are not mandatory to our providers, but it's just to gather some feedback. So that's how we've been doing it. We haven't been able to get payments out for the wage initiative yet. That's happening like very soon. That's happening in the next couple weeks.
Mhm.
And then we'll be able to start getting some feedback from them. Other than that, the most feedback we've been getting is just through like emails and phone calls. Um, and I know a lot of our providers are being very patient with this process, which has been really great and kind. So I imagine that will be reflected in the surveys as well as what their frustrations were.
Perfect. Thank you. Other regions or other folks? Go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, I mean, I can just add, I think that this is something that we have put some thought into, but haven't had like really a chance to formalize a process for how we're going to be collecting that.
Mhm.
We are on the tail end of our second wave of like rollouts. And so I think our vision is like once we get to a place where it's like more consistent and like with the educators that are participating month to month, um, I think we were hoping to send out our own survey anyway, at some
Mhm.
point, and I think it would be great to include that. We have like CCN had like a lot of the people who are participating in Region 6 and 9 are involved in some FCCNs or in like
Mhm.
other functions of like that CC that childcare network sort of like the spaces that we operate in. And so I think we've heard some like informal stories about like this is helping so much. And we've been able to, like, I don't know, Carrie, if I feel like we had a story of one provider who talked about it and we were able to document that. But I think those are the sort of the informal ways that currently we're hearing about the impact.
Yeah. Carrie, anything you want to add? Not to put you on the spot, but just see.
And just with what Oliver's saying, we just released our, would it be the third month of payments for our first wave and then in the second wave, so which is super exciting. And so I feel like when we're on the phone providing technical assistance for my registry or whatever the case is, we're
Mhm.
hearing a lot of informal feedback just about how impactful this is, but we're really interested to actually hear like from all of the educators too. So we've been thoughtful. We have two brand new team members on this call, which is super.
Oh, great.
So we have team members for Region 6 and Region 9 that are going to be supporting the work. This is their first week, so we're trying not to overwhelm them too much. But that is one area that we know that we're going to have more manpower to really like focus in on some of these things that we've had dreams about, but we haven't had necessarily the time to do. So yay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question about the AIR data
Mm.
that's being collected. Have we seen anything from? So if we have, I've completely missed it. But just curious, like what were those? What's coming out of those surveys? Does anybody know?
Right. I see. I'm like, I see Joy coming on camera, so I'll let her answer.
Joy knows.
Hi,
Mhm.
Joy.
Hi, how are you? Hey, everybody.
Hi, Joy.
I can help a little bit. So,
Sure.
we kind of talked yesterday knowing that regions are interested in data. The surveys that are going out to the participants are intended to be pre-post surveys. So, we didn't necessarily intend to release this beginning snapshot. We intend it to be paired so that we can show growth and change over time. Also, because right now we are stuck with such a short time period, we're also thinking about Say, and Region 5, I'm not putting you on the spot. Region 10 also still has to get out payments. But so we've got to do the post survey probably in like July. And so we're really also thinking, how long do we leave the pre-open? No pressure. No, how long do we leave the pre-open, knowing that we're going to have to come back around and give them the repeat survey in like a month or two? We want to try and make sure that there's a little bit of time for change to take effect between the two. If there is information that you think would be helpful moving forward right now from the pre-survey, like feel free to let me know. Like we are flexible and we're willing to sort of like do a regional report out as much as we can. One of the other pieces, and I know we also talked about how much nagging are we going to like do at you to have to do to your people, because we know everybody is like juggling 12 balls in the air right now trying to get this thing implemented, get payments out, get your providers to do responses, things like that. The other thing, because it's an anonymous survey, if we only have a handful of responses, it becomes kind of less anonymous from a regional perspective. But I know within your region, that looks a little different anyway. So I guess feel free to like let your TA team know what your thoughts are, like kind of think about it with your teams. Do you think there's any value to getting just sort of like a report out from your regional responses on the pre? Will you be okay waiting to pull together the matched pieces in the pre-post later? Like, let me know, like let the TA team know, and then they can let me know. We are flexible and we're willing to offer whatever we can if you think it will be helpful to you. And otherwise, that'll come sort of like later, later this summer, early fall. And in between there, maybe we'll know whether or not we get a third year and we can continue funding your project management and your technical assistance and extend out the evaluation timeline, which will be better for all of us. There's a lot of we get reports from AIR every single week, and I know Holly comes back to you guys, but also I know how many responses we had as of Monday this week. Always like feel free to either drop TA an email or reach out to me directly if you want to know, but I also know Holly stays in touch with you guys a lot on that as well. That's what
Joy,
I've got as far as data. Yeah, Maria.
when were they going to do those focus groups or conversations? When are they planning on doing those?
They are coming, and I'm looking to see if I can find the correct tab in my OneNote so I can give you a little better update. Let me see where I put it. I have a timeline dropped into one of my tabs on my OneNote. So here's our timeline. They would like to be able to do the general interviews with all y'all this month. So they are working on like the outreach and getting that through us to come out to you guys to try to schedule interviews with the RCC leads and co-leads. So they would like to try and do that this month. May, they will send out the general survey to non-participating providers. We're calling it a pulse survey because it's like 3, 4, 5 questions. It's a very quick survey. That will go out through my registry in May so that we've got a sort of a comparison group of what do we hear from the educators participating in the wage initiative, and what's the difference in educators who are not participating. That'll be May. May and June, they would like to do follow-up deeper dive interviews. We're kind of looking at implementation case studies-ish by region, just kind of like trying to track across what the different implementation models are and what you guys are experiencing as you're trying to, y'all folks, sorry, Midwest, we get stuck in the guys, and then people from outside of the Midwest are like, don't call me guys. And so trying to work on that a little bit. I've lost it a little, but May and June for select regions, we will come back and ask to do sort of like a deeper dive into the implementation and what your experiences have been and what your feedback on that is. And then follow-up participant survey June. That gives us July to do any final sort of like questions, wrap-ups, analysis, and putting together the reports for an end of August delivery. Right now, the project has to wrap up at the end of September. Um, I probably do. I'm looking at chat and I missed a
Mm.
couple of chats.
No, you're
Um,
good. I think we definitely do joy. We have the information from AIR, the one pagers that you all shared with us, so we can recirculate those as follow-up so that you can
okay.
have that information. So don't worry about looking for that. I know we have it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
But yeah.
yep, the surveys are in the RCCC resource library. And so again, we'll just share those links, but we do have the questions that are currently in the field.
Yes.
Anything else I can attempt to be somewhat slightly potentially helpful for? The reporting, I agree with everything you said. The reporting metrics were what you had put in your proposals as far as your progress and your intended metrics.
Okay, great.
And then the rest is really like more qualitative to try and like give us some direct, more quicker than the evaluation study feedback on how the implementation is going.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm going to go back off camera and leave you to it.
Okay.
I'm here
You're
if you
good.
need me. I'm just taking a little treadmill time while we're having some
Yes.
office hour time. So if there's anything else you think I can be helpful with, just yell at me and I will come back. And otherwise, I'm going away. See ya.
Thank you so much, Joy. And I admire your multitasking. I have a standing desk that probably hasn't been in standing mode in 6 months. So good for those of you that do it. Um, Great. I wondering, as Joy was talking to, I was thinking we could, if folks have even rudimentary resources of how you're collecting things, I think we could share the way we track conversations around TA. I think it's those of you who have had to hear me month after month, having run one of these programs and inheriting one at its 24th month. And like the collection is so important of these little anecdotes. You never know when they come in handy, and it's really what drives a lot of people's that heart part around decision making. And really it's amazing what we all think we'll remember, or the things we think we'll have. So would love to share a few resources of just simple ways to organize what you hear as you go on, but welcome any other sharing. I'm going to show us, just for time, the Strategic Communication Toolkit update, which is a one-pager template for you to communicate about your successes. I'll share my screen here in a second, but I will put the link in the chat for you all so you can double check that it works. And if you prefer to just look on your own, and I'll give us an overview, and it's still related to this conversation. So anything, any other questions that you have? And I realized by putting that link in, for those of you, it's a Canva link. And so Canva, if you've never used it, might be like, what the heck am I opening? I promise when you have a few minutes later, or others on your team who you might defer to for this kind of work, it will seem much easier than it might seem if you've never seen it before. It's very similar to using a Microsoft Word or Google Docs kind of template. And so ECIC worked with the team of folks at Bellwether, whom they contract with, as well as, of course, GoISD and MyLeap, to put this together as a potential one pager for you all to use. This is just a template. Of course, it's yours to edit and use as you see fit, add in words. You'll see here there is there's copy on the document that we have put together, but it doesn't mean that you might have different messaging, different core messages that you want to replace some of the wording with, your own branding, all of that kind of stuff. This is something you can save as your own and really edit with your own numbers. We had heard from several different regions about being able to just have something specific to your region about the wage initiative. There's stuff online, of course, on your own websites, but statewide about what the initiative is. So this gives you an opportunity to have some language to take this and in your meetings with folks, having coffee with folks, thinking about sustainability from the beginning. There's placeholders here of of what we thought would be compelling data to tell the story. Again, if you're like, we prefer kind of a different flavor of explaining this to folks, there's right now a placeholder in there for how many applications you received, how many folks are receiving funding for regions who that might be more like a one-to-one match because of the size of your region. You might want to swap that out for something else, but this allows you to just quickly plug in, oh, there's, family childcare or centers, or, if you feel in your region enumerating in a different way, like, oh, Head Start or pre-K, whatever the right data is for you. There's a placeholder here for a quote. Speaking of kind of collecting those anecdotes, we have placeholders here around average wage and some, again, I don't want to call this placeholder. I say placeholder because it's your template. You can change it, but we worked on language that felt like was um, easy to understand to a layperson, compelling to folks for you all to kind of plug and play as you see fit, as well as a call out that this is, something that is a step towards a permanent solution and not just short-term support, so that you all can be advocating as you go for other folks to invest or contribute or play that advocacy role with you all, including it could be a resource for coalition members. And then there's some placeholders here around replacing with your own contact information, your own logo. Of course, all of this is editable. So, like you said, replacing it with things that are more resonant to your brand, with local pictures, all of that stuff is also um, available. So I'll give you a second to keep looking at it, but I'll share my screen for a minute more, which means it's a little bit harder for me to see the screen. So if you all have some immediate thoughts or questions, just come off mute and go ahead and ask them. Just one more technical share while you're thinking is if you're unfamiliar with Canva, there is like you can download things, you can select, oh, I want to download this. Once you fill it out as its own PDF or JPEG or PNG, you can do that. But also right now, if you're like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable in this format, you can also download it as a PowerPoint if that's more comfortable to you as a way to edit it. It will download somewhat similarly to what it looks like here. It might take some tweaking, but you can do that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. The link is still in the chat. Questions, thoughts, reactions from folks, or just other communications questions you have?
Yeah, and I might just add to what Sarah shared. We, in that section that has like the data points, those are just some that we had pulled out that in prior office hours came up as maybe being important to local partners. But we do not feel that you need to be beholden to those particular data points. So again, continue to modify them as relevant to whomever you may share this with. And then we also have an updated slide deck in development that will include a lot of the same elements. The prior slide deck really was focusing more on the initial introduction to the wage initiative and the application, whereas the new version will have multiple slides that allow you to start telling your story, including some additional data, talking about other initiatives that tie into this. So really creating this like bigger tool that you'll be able to add to or pull from as relevant for your region. And I would expect that to be live hopefully within the next few days, if not early next week.
I see on the first page, it says the monthly stipend of up to $300. Are you wanting us to just report for the full-time staff members or part-time and full-time?
I think that's up to you all. We
Okay.
kept it simple just from a messaging standpoint, but if you're a region that's funding a lot of part-time staff members, it might, make the most sense to say both.
Okay.
But you're more than welcome to do either.
Yeah, that one pager has limited real estate, and so we were just being trying to be efficient in the wording we were using. So again, if it makes sense to add some information to reflect the 2 tiers of stipends, feel free to do that.
Okay.
I have a question. Was it intentional to leave out MyLeap's name on this document, or because I'm thinking there's a response. I think in the contract it has us putting in Go ISD and MyLeap on promotional materials.
Oh, great question. That might just be an oversight on our part and focusing mostly on the language and getting it into a design. So thank you for flagging that, Maria. I think we'll check on that and update the template accordingly ASAP.
Yeah, I think that I had that flagged on something for our webinar. Then Holly said, make sure you're putting MyLeap and Go ISD logos on
Yeah.
things.
Great point. Well, we can add those so you don't have to add them yourself and send that back out. Yeah, I love the comments. It is very nice. I could never make something like this on my own, so appreciate the starting point for you all. Great. Well, you can keep the questions coming. Just to flag again, as Lindsay said, there'll also be a PowerPoint updated, so we'll make sure the logos here are updated as well as flag for you when that PowerPoint is ready. And we'll do this similar thing. You can just directly email us back or figure other things out with other questions as you review that. Great.
Quick question.
Yeah, please.
And it's not so much to do with the evaluation piece that we're talking about,
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
one thing that came up with our second wave, specifically with home providers, was I think against best practices, many of them will 1099 contract many of their staff.
Mhm.
And so we had a question around, are they like technically they are like contractors instead of employees? And so questions around like, are they technically eligible for it, for the initiative? And so I think it got lost in the cracks because Holly never got back to me, but I'm curious if other coalitions are like if that's something that's come up and how they've handled that.
Great question, Oliver. Anyone
And
have
I'll add
encountered that? Yeah, please.
one quick extra piece on top of that is I think like there are most definitely home providers currently receiving stipends who are 1099 that we just don't know about because we didn't collect that data. And so now because it was asked in our webinar, it's like something that like we need to say something about, and I don't know, like it's a gray area, I think.
Katie, correct me if I'm wrong. Our region, we've been advising businesses that we had one business ask if they could switch their employees to 1099. We told them, advised them not to do that. We said keep it as is. But the employees that were already doing private contracting, we've just been collecting the 1099. It's only been a small handful. I do think that brings up a good point, though, in the lack of clarity that we've kind of gotten from the state on information to collect. So if that's something that the TA resource centers could help support, that would be awesome.
Yes, I'm happy to do so. I know the sticky part here for you all, and I definitely think this is more of a compliance than a TA. I will just say having experiences in the past is like, there are things as a business owner, legalities, of course, of like who
Yeah.
really should be an employee versus. So I think that's the main thing is we can help you with some language. I guess what I see as like the best you can do is provide them back with guidance of like what they are obligated to do, but that's really the line you all have. They're the business owner, but I think to your point, Caroline, around what you should and can collect, we can get clearer about that. And I think then providing you with language, although I welcome anyone else to say what they've done in this place of just kind of a canned response, for lack of a better way of saying it, of like your responsibilities as a business owner and how you classify your employees. But I think beyond that, there's not tons you can do. But I think from an eligibility standpoint, we haven't heard anything, but I'll verify of that making someone ineligible for the program.
Yeah, I think this is a good place to pull in your small business development center consultants. I know sometimes it can be a challenge on more of the childcare specifics with some of the SBDC in engagements, but this is a textbook SBDC question that they can help a company walk through in terms of how do you make that decision, what needs to be in place for it to be considered part-time versus a contractual situation. And so that would be a great resource to connect the business with so that again, hopefully they're doing everything legally appropriate. And we've done our due diligence of making sure that they're connected with people who can help them with that specifically.
Does that help, Oliver, or at least help knowing some things are coming? And for all of their
So
faults, the IRS does have some really good pages. So I'll put that in the chat too around some guidance. You segued us perfectly, Oliver, because we have a few more questions, but just given time, I was more interested in like what are you all experiencing? What would be helpful to hear from each other, things that you're coming you're still very much in the like getting payments out and getting the kinks worked out at first. I want to give you opportunity to bring up questions like that with each other. I'd be interested to know if you're getting any as we approach the mid-April. I know some of you haven't paid, so that probably is not applicable, but for those of you did everyone get out payments just starting this calendar year? So this tax season may not be as applicable for all of you, I think. Just but didn't know if you're getting any questions there.
Region 5 has not gotten payments out, and we have gotten a ton of tax questions already.
Oh,
We had it in our budget to offer tax assistance. So part of our wage initiative, we have funding for some tax consults. We're also going to do office hours to help assist. So like we'll have our MMDC's team, we'll have the economic development, as well as bringing in the resource centers, so bringing in like the Julie Bashes and stuff like that to help assist where needed. And then we're trying to build a relationship right now with some of our accountants in the area that have already worked with childcare providers to have them present as well to help assist with any of those questions. So that's kind of one of the ways that Region 5 is trying to address some of these questions we're getting pretty consistently.
thanks for that. Other questions? I'm just opening it up to you all for troubleshooting questions, things you want to discuss.
So Oliver, you guys have gotten payments out. Did you guys do it as a reimbursement or did you guys just send them the money? Like, did you guys ask for proof that the money went to the correct people? How did you handle that?
Yeah, so the verification process is something we are still working on getting out, but we have it out. The decision right now is quarterly. Well, so sorry, the money goes to the program, and the program is in charge of distributing the funds accordingly.
Okay.
Month or quarterly, the verification process right now is we will send you a sheet that you basically need every educator to sign saying, I uh, have in fact received the correct amount of funds for these months. Um, and then 15% of all programs will be audited quarterly. And that'll just be a little bit of a more involved process where they have to provide some sort of paper trail demonstrating that the funds went where they said that they were going to go.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's something that you all are doing that's not from my lead.
It is something that we want to be doing.
Okay. Okay.
Other regions want to add to the verification process?
Well, we're doing direct payment to the early educators. So we have a push text that goes out on a certain date of the month that they verify that they are still employed with a few different questions and an upload. And then that triggers the next payment. So we just completed our third month. We did January, February, and March, and we have about 220 on a payment schedule. So but there's always just those few. And so and then if they don't answer the text, then we do a follow-up and then we also do a verification from the employer. So there's, some different steps that we do. But, one thing I would say is we've already had some people who have left their employment. So it is still a very volatile job situation with a lot of them. So there is always going to be a lot of tracking people down, verifying if they're still employed and things like that. So you're still going to have that percentage of unmet distribution, I think, every month. So that will be interesting to see how we can handle that. Because now at this point, we're going to ask Holly if somebody is just now enrolled in April, do we go all the way back to January and send them a full payment? So I know in the form you could do, 1, 2, or 3, but this would be 4 payments. I mean, if we can verify, obviously, if they were employed since January, but I guess that will be a TA question. Like, how far do you go back? Because we are having some people drop and you want to be at full. So you're constantly, backfilling to a small extent, thank goodness. But, we're just wondering about that. Like, do you go back that many months? And then you kind of have some questions too about like how much they can receive a month and if that triggers a benefit situation, which it definitely could, because all of a sudden their monthly income just went, way higher for 1 month. So those are some things that we're just starting to wrestle with right now. But yeah, it's been a heavy lift. And we keep thinking like we're getting closer to the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel keeps getting longer. Like, oh shoot, we still got to figure that out.
Yeah, you're in the big dig.
Yeah.
Definitely heard your question, Barbara, around like the back payment now that we're, in month 4. So we'll add that. We'll get an answer, add it to the FAQ, and definitely let you all know. And I know just to plug the Social Security insurance resource that a few of you have seen, but that will be coming out. That is definitely one of the benefits that's calculated monthly, which is not to say you can't work to say this is an anomaly of a month, but it has an impact on your recipients. Very few benefits are calculated monthly, but that one is definitely one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think not to like totally just take control of the meeting, but I have another question. If we so we've had some providers that are like so and so switched to being full time. so and so left, and now we're moving who was part-time up to full-time. Now are they, and they were approved for the part-time stipend, do they get the full-time stipend? And from my understanding, that's up to the discretion of each region. But has anyone else already handled that? And how did you handle
We handled the somebody left and they had another employee that they wanted to fund. And so, based on if we felt like the employer was responsive and things turned around quickly and we felt like it was a good fit, we slotted in a new person. And we've had somebody was part-time and full-time, and then we still had that ability to put them in the full-time. So we've accommodated those requests because we feel like the ultimate goal is still to keep the employment secured and, positive, so that we have. But then we did have somebody that left a classroom to become a director, and then they're no longer teaching. And so, unfortunately, we had to tell that person they were no longer eligible. They will be getting paid more as a director, but they would not be eligible for the wage stipend. So, we have had a lot of different scenarios with all the different people. But yeah, it is, from what we understood with Holly, it is up to each region to make the decision on how they want to handle that.
Yeah, we sort of built it into our planning that I think we've under budgeted a little bit, and we also had a fair amount of cash match, which has allowed us the flexibility to say, um, if a staff goes from part-time to full-time, let us know. If you need to add new staff, let us know. And I think we'll be able to continue to do that until or unless we, sort of hit that cap that we've set.
Yeah, that was all super helpful. I think that is a big challenge for Region 5 is a lot of our match was in kind match. So that has added a unique challenge. So if anyone knows of any businesses that want to come support Region 5, tell them to reach out because we will take their money very happily.
You can pilot our one pager and PowerPoint template to see to get some other folks. Love the questions. This is what this is for. So please keep anyone is welcome to keep asking them. We just have a few more minutes together. So any other things you want to hear from each other, things you're like, please help us with this, open to anything. Also, we welcome introductions from our new colleagues in Region 6 and 9. I didn't want to put you on the spot because I know when you're new, you're always introducing yourself, probably all day long. But if there aren't any other questions, would love to just get you all's introduction and just any other questions you have.
Nick always goes first, so I'll go first this time. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Johnson. I'm working with CCN for Regional Childcare Coalitions. I'm working with Region 6, and today is my 4th day. And so I'm just soaking everything in, trying to make sense of what I already know and then pick up some new things. I'm coming from a background in research as it relates to childcare. I went to Michigan State University and graduated from there, and then did some teaching through Saginaw Valley State, and then am here now. And so I've worked for childcare centers before, and so some of this language feels familiar because of the opposite side, and then some of it I get to learn from my role. And so thank you for having a conversation for me to listen and learn from.
Yeah.
Great to meet everyone.
Welcome, Anna. We're glad to have you.
I can jump in now after Anna. I do normally introduce myself first, so it's nice to listen sometimes. I am working with the regional coalition. I am with Region 9 at CCN. I've been working in childcare since I was a child. I'm the youngest of nine, so I've always been around children. And now it's fun to be on the advocacy side for it and getting more people in the door. Yeah, it's my also my fourth day, so I'm just trying to we're Oliver Shadows this week, so we are just listening and learning and helping where we can.
Great. Nice to meet you too, Nick. And as everyone on this call knows, the TA team, which is Lindsay and I, and Liv is your program manager for the regional coalitions with ECIC, are here at any time. You're in great hands with your colleagues at Child Care Network, but there's no question too small to ask us. So please do so at any time. Any other questions? I am cognizant of your time and this might be the 12 minutes in the day you have to use the restroom. So we're happy to end and give you a few minutes back. I think we can stick on if you want to stick. If you're like, oh, I had this question, but I didn't want to ask everyone. Feel free to stay on. But I think if you don't have any other questions, we'll let you go a little bit early. But before I do that, let me just plug, we will have the tax and benefit resource out to you very soon. And with that, we'll send some other times for you to just pop in, not required. But if sometimes you read something, you're like, oh my gosh, I just need someone to go over this with me in person, because we are sending you a benefits calculator, which may not be helpful for some of you, might be helpful. I think mostly is for you all. Like it may be a little overwhelming to use with folks, but it is also helpful to build your own understanding around where benefits cliffs exist for folks. As you all continue to get and field those questions, the tax resources are more around just what Oliver asked of like, what should we be checking employers are doing or individuals? What should we be telling them now that they're getting payments and this tax season might spur like, oh my gosh, next year's taxes, what am I going to do about that kind of stuff? So you'll have that. As well as the Social Security insurance resource that was requested during one of the last office hours that we have shared with those for whom it was urgent. So if you're like, that's urgent and I need it now, we've been trying to wait for approval, but also for those of you who are like, I have a question and I need to answer it yesterday, we also have that. So if that's you, please let us know. But otherwise, we'll see you again very soon. And we are always here to answer your questions. And we'll probably be reaching out to you now that you're all getting your payments out or very close, to see if there's any other individual support we can give you. But really always appreciate and good to see you all. And we'll talk again soon. And we'll be following up with all the links we shared today and with those FAQ questions. So thank you all.
Nice work.
Thank you. Do you want to stop the recording, Lindsay? I was thinking we could just